Hey everyone, welcome to episode 468, All Dolphins podcast on Tuesday, February 25th, 2025, breaking the pattern of Monday, Wednesday, Friday because it's Combine week and we told you we're going to provide wall-to-wall coverage. We weren't kidding. I am joined here once again as I do a gratuitous, that's what I'm looking for, gratuitous prop, and I'll get to I have tendinitis. I'm not messing around here, but there's a story behind that. We'll address it with my buddy Chris Perkins once again joining me. Perkins, back-to-back appearances. How are you, Perk?
Hi, Tyreek. How you doing? You got your wrist wrapped. I don't know who I'm addressing here. Is this Poop? Is this Tyreek? Who am I talking to? Wrist wraps. What's going on?
Yeah, and I'm just as fast as he is on top of that too.
That's right. That's right. Y'all look alike. It's amazing. It's amazing.
He runs a 4.4 hour and a 44. I mean, kind of the same thing. So,
That's right.
I was always a very, very good base runner when I played baseball. Extraordinarily slow, but very smart running the bases. Not the same.
There you go.
As I was saying, this is not a prop to make fun of anybody. I do have tendinitis, and this actually provides comfort. But Tyreek obviously wore the big wristband bandage on Friday on an Instagram reel. Mike McDaniel, who addressed a lot of different topics, Tuesday morning when he spoke at the Combine in Indianapolis, where I currently am, in my hotel room, staring at a parking garage across the street. Not the best of view, such as life in the big city. Addressed several topics, one of which was confirming that Tyreek Hill indeed did have wrist surgery. And I want to make a quick point here because one of the comments on the video yesterday, Perk, took us to task for covering the team and the question that Tyreek would have had wrist surgery with a big bandage around his wrist. And I'm gonna say it again. Tyreek is a troll. He is a self-admitted troll. If you think the possibility never existed that he could have been trolling, I don't know what to tell you. In retrospect, sure, there was nothing mischievous about it. That was the result of his injury. But let's move on from that. Mike McDaniel indicated wasn't a break, a fracture. It was ligament damage that had to be repaired. Mm-hmm. And then won't be able to catch the ball in OTAs. Should be ready for the start of training camp. Big deal, no big deal?
Not really a big deal. You know, I've told you I don't really worry about Tyreek going hard. He practices hard. He plays hard. I don't think a wrist injury at 30 years old is the sign of, Tyreek is on the downturn. I don't think it's that at all. It's a wrist surgery. Let's move on from it. To me, the big thing with Tyreek is going to be attitude, and that has zero to do with wrist surgery. I'm not worried about Tyreek physically. He's going to be just fine. He'll be back in the Pro Bowl this season.
Okay. You heard it here first from Chris Perkins. Fearless, bold predictions. Although, I don't know how bold that is.
Right. I'm going out on a limb.
For me, it's not a big deal either. Again, because he's going to be ready for training camp. Yep. The only caveat I will throw is because of the way this last season ended and because of the crap that came out afterwards with players' meetings and all that, if ever there was an offseason where you would want a team to go above and beyond, meaning as perfect of an attendance as possible, everybody practicing, even though it's OTAs and shorts and T-shirts, as much as possible, it's the 2025 Miami Dolphins. Again, based on the circumstances of last season, in the big picture, it might not mean anything. And like you mentioned, Tyreek Hill very well could be back in the Pro Bowl. 1,400 yards back again, 12 touchdowns, and nobody will care about the wrist surgery. Okay. The biggest topic, however, the biggest story on Tuesday was Terron Armstead.
Yes.
Whose situation remains, the line from JFK escapes me. It's a middle around the riddle.
Yeah.
Surrounded by
riddle wrapped in a mystery, surrounded by something. Yeah.
I actually need to go look at the script of the movie, print out the words so I can pull it up, and I have a little flashcard here because I'm not smart enough to remember it all. Anyway, so Mike McDaniel was asked about Terron Armstead being on the team next year, and he basically said that Terron, we've been in constant communication with Terron as of last week. He basically still had not made up his mind. And we told him, and he understands it, that we need to proceed making our plans as though he's going to retire and not be part of the team. Shortly thereafter, a report from Rappaport. I like that. It rhymes.
Yeah.
Suggesting that Terron is willing to accept cutting his pay to the veteran minimum, the base salary. And here's the thing also, when I said the base salary for a veteran of 7 years or more last year was 1.2 million. So it's going to be the same or maybe slightly higher. Terron still is on the books for $7 million prorated signing bonus. That's already been paid to him. So it's money he's already seen. So he wouldn't see it anymore. This cap number would go from currently 22 million. If you do the math, I think it's going to be like something around 8 million. So it would save the Dolphins 14 million cap space. The idea being that it would give Terron more time to decide whether he wants to continue and not force the Dolphins to make a drastic move. However, very quickly, even if Terron didn't do that, the Dolphins only were going to save $4 million by releasing him pre-June 1 without this move. So anyway, I don't know how this all fits. Your thoughts on the whole thing?
My initial thoughts on this are a little complex. I don't think money has ever been or will ever be the thing with Terron. It's his availability, and it's him standing in the way of Patrick Paul's development. And I mean that in a nice way, not because and here's the other thing. You just need Terron so much. Again, for the unfilled product, he's your best offensive lineman. For the locker room product, Chop Robinson talks about how much Terron has helped him. Edge rusher. Patrick Paul talks about how much Terron helps him. A backup left tackle, and you need him for team culture. We were just talking about, perfect attendance and all of this. Terron helps you so greatly in those ways, but can you depend on him physically? If Terron decides to come back, when does he make this decision? And if you've already gotten a backup left tackle, and Terron decides I'm coming back, well, you kind of wasted a spot, right? Because Patrick Paul is your backup left tackle. So to me, it's not a financial thing. It's a decision thing so that you can know how to proceed in free agency and in the draft. Because to me, if Terron is coming back, I'm proceeding this way. If Terron is not coming back, I'm proceeding this way, meaning if Terron is not coming back, I need a quality backup left tackle. If he is, Patrick Paul is my quality backup left tackle, but my second round pick has to wait another year. It's really not a financial thing. And I will tell you this. I've got to write a column tomorrow, and my initial reaction from this is, if these guys get that money from Terron, they're going to go out and make another foolish spending move. They're going to get a wide receiver or something. I kind of liked it when their jobs are on the line and they don't have much money and they've got to scrutinize every decision. If you give these guys $10 million to spend, I fear that it will be spent frivolously, which I know nobody is thinking about. But so I don't know what to think about Terron still. That's what I wrote a couple of weeks ago. I don't know what I would do about Terron. This, to me, it's not a financial thing. It's a how do we proceed going forward thing.
Yeah, and see, to me, the cap played a part in it. To me, the three parts of it is the cap number, which never was going to happen at 22 mil, which was his original cap number. The whole idea of being a progress blocker for Patrick Paul. And then the third, of course, is a dependability issue. Now, and the point I was getting at earlier that I lost my train of thought halfway through and then stopped it and threw it to you because I'm like, please bail me out, Per, because I'm like lost here. If Terron if Terron doesn't do anything like this beforehand, the Dolphins can cut him March 12th. And they'll save $4 million in cap space, which is not a ton, and which I don't think would necessarily be, would he be the determining factor? Again, they're not going to carry that 22 million. And again, I'm getting all twisted in my head because it's so complicated. If they cut him in March but make it post June 1, they save 15 million in cap space. So Terron's cap number still will remain on the books. It'll go from 22 million to 7 million if they make him a post June 1. But you don't have him on the roster. This is Terron. The Terron at now at a lower cap space, which would be now 8 million. It's a lot more palatable. The Dolphins still have to decide whether the combination of the factors makes it work. The other part of it is where I'm almost inclined to think, based on McDaniel's comments, that Dolphins have already decided to move on, is why would the way he phrased it is like, we need to operate as if he's not coming back. March 12th is 2 weeks away.
Mm-hmm.
Why couldn't it be just, if the Dolphins really wanted to have Terron, we're going to have a discussion with him next week. He's going to have to give us a final answer by then. Because Terron absolutely has earned him. He's been a great vet. He's a great guy. Consummate pro and all that. But his team has to make plans for the next season. I don't think it's unfair for the Dolphins to say, the league year starts March 12th. By March 5th, you need to have your decision. Do you still want to play? And then we'll decide whether we're going to bring you back. I don't think.
And Poop, correct me if I'm wrong here. I think the one thing that Terron has done by volunteering to give up money to restructure his contract is he makes that money available now for the Dolphins to spend in free agency, right? If he was a post-June 1st cut, they couldn't spend that. They would miss out on the prime free agents. So he's doing them a favor in that respect because they're right that they'll have that money to spend now. So that's good. And Terron's always been a good guy. This is no surprise. I think financially, I guess that's the big advantage from this announcement. But I agree with you. Like, to me, again, he was never going to play this season at that 22 million number. They were going to lower it somehow. What Terron has done is offer them the maximum discount, but you still are you getting a backup left tackle or not? And you're not gonna. Are you gonna know that going into free agency? To me, that's kind of the big thing because again, So it's great and it's admirable of Terron to give up the money and allow the Dolphins to use it now, but. What are you doing at left tackle? And it's a crucial position. It's not like Terron plays left guard or he's a two-down linebacker. This is a crucial position. So they need to know ASAP, how do we proceed? And if you're going to proceed based on Terron not being here, and then on March 17th, Terron says, hey, guess what? I'm coming back. And you signed a backup left tackle. Now what? So I agree with you. You need to know, like March 5th and in the next few, you need to know. And again, Terron is a great guy. I'm not trying to pressure Terron, but this is a business, and you can't afford to wait around on employee number 72. You've got to move forward.
No, correct. I mean, and 2 months after the end of the season should be enough time. And if you still need more time, then don't blame the Dolphins if they move on. And again, the involuntary to make that move would. Again, it changes the cap savings from 4 million if the Dolphins were to waive him now to 14 million. And again, I need my math book because it's okay. Sorry, 4 million if they were to cut him. Now they save 14 million without cutting him. Oh, yeah, I'm telling you, my head is spinning with this. All right, and by the way. And I apologize if I'm all over the place because I'm like, he took a pay cut last year after he decided to return for his third season with the Dolphins. So it's not unprecedented. This is a guy who clearly is not motivated purely by the money. He's toward the end of his career. He wants to continue playing, and money is not the totally driving force here. And it's also not unprecedented for pay cuts to be significant because I remember in 2018, Albert Wilson took a massive pay cut where it was basically a situation of you will take a pay cut and like it, or we will release you. And he was at a point coming off of injuries where Wilson did not have a ton of bargaining power wound up taking the pay cut, and that wound up being his final season with the Dolphins. Next topic, Javon Holland, and I just wrote about this on Miami Dolphins on SI.com. The magic words came out for the first time this offseason. He has earned the right to test the free agent market. What has Uncle Poop told you guys all along? You hear those words, that means basically bye-bye. This was Mike McDaniel saying it. Last year was Chris Greer with Christian Wilkins. The year before that, I think it was also Chris Greer with Mike Gesicki.
Yeah.
I've been trying to look. I don't recall, and I'm probably wrong on this one. I'm not sure I recall anybody saying that about Robert Hunt last year. They probably said it.
No,
You don't
I don't
recall?
think so. I don't recall.
Those are the magic words. Those are basically saying he wants more than we're paying. Somebody's going to give it to him, and it's not going to be us.
Yep. And look, Javon is a guy that we figured probably wasn't going to come back for a multitude of reasons. One being he's too expensive. And another, it just seemed like the magic was gone. Last year with Vic Fangio, this year Javon is not elected a team captain. And so it just seemed like some of that magic has faded between Javon and the Dolphins for whatever reason in a couple of ways. So it's not a shock to hear those words. I think it's probably confirmation of what we suspected for a long time.
Yeah, and is it possible Javon Holland goes to another team and completely blows up and becomes an all-pro? Yeah, it's possible because the dude looks the part, and there are certain times when you see it on the field, and it's like, man, yeah, I can see. Except I don't know that it's been there consistently over this 4 years with the Dolphins. I don't know that I see a guy who's a must resign. I don't see Minkah Fitzpatrick like when the Dolphins traded him in 2019 for entirely different reasons. I think it was one of those where, yeah, that could hurt. That one could hurt. I don't know that I see that. By the same token, somebody can turn around and say, well, look what happened with Brandon Jones. Brandon Jones went to Denver, went from being a depth player, for lack of a better term, to being a borderline all-pro. I don't know that I see that for Javon, and there's zero way I blame the Dolphins for not being willing to spend that kind of money. Now it puts them in the position they're going to need not one but two starting safeties, because I think you and I would agree there's Jordan Poyer's not getting re-signed.
Yep.
And they have Patrick McMorris, a 2024 sixth-round pick, and nobody else currently under contract at safety because Elijah Campbell also is an impending UFA. I think they can get two solid starting safeties for what it would cost them to keep Javon Holland.
I think so too. And, to me, one of the shames about Javon Holland probably leaving is it's more homegrown talent walking out the door. Mm-hmm. However, Holland is different. With Hunt and Wilkins, you should have signed them the year before, and you would have liked to have kept them around. Holland signing him the year before, he didn't show me enough that he was going to be worth that price. Same with Mike Gesicki. Now, you should have signed, again, Wilkins the year before. You should have signed Hunt the year before. You should have had a better read on Andrew Van Ginkel. Brandon Jones, okay. But those are the three, I think, Poop, that really bother me. Brandon Jones and some others, you can't re-sign everybody, but I think those three of the ones in the Mike McDaniel era, those are probably the three that I'll point to and say, you probably should have done better keeping the homegrown talent here at home. Eichenberg is probably going to get away, maybe, but he's a drafty. I would say Rob Jones is more likely to stay, and he was an undrafted guy, but he's still homegrown. And so I don't really fault the Dolphins for constantly, you always let this guy go. There's a select few that they should have had the foresight to sign earlier. But really, with Wilkins and Rob Hunt, by the time they got to that final year, you couldn't afford them. Like, there was no way you were going to re-sign them for that price. And that's the same with Javon now. You're not going to re-sign. What is Javon going to get, 10, 12 million a year, something like that?
Good.
Yeah, north of that? Yeah, 14, yeah. You're not re-signing him for that price. So I'm not mad at the Dolphins for this, and I'm not mad at Javon for, wanting to be out of here as it appears he does.
I don't even know that he wants to be out of here. I think he wants to chase the bag, and basically whoever's going to pay him more. Yeah, I think somebody asked me. I was roaming the halls of the Indiana Convention Center today, and catching up with a lot of football writer buddies, and one of them was like asking where Javon's going to go, and my answer was basically wherever he gets the most money. I mean, I kind of get the feeling. I mean, he's mentioned on the podcast, the Breaking House Rules podcast, that he'd like the idea of living in the city, in a loft specifically. He mentioned the idea of playing great golf. I also think Javon's one of those players who is going to go where the money is.
And hey, and by the way, I'm not mad at him for that because Wilkins did that and Hunt did that. Excuse me. And to me, at this stage of your career, that second contract, that's your big money deal.
Yep.
And the third one is when you chase the ring, right? I mean, you could chase another big contract if you want. That it's unlikely. But that's when you get into 28, 30, you're at the end of your career, and that ring becomes more important. Second contract, get your bag because that's probably the best opportunity you're going to have.
Should go back to Tyreek on one particular issue. The notion that Tyreek Hill played a role in his being fired, whether it was
Wes Welker.
Who did I say?
Tyreek and playing a role in his being fired, and Wes Welker being fired.
Sorry,
yes.
Wes Welker. Sorry. No, I'm off my game. Sorry, gang. I don't know, late flight last night. I'm off my game. And of course,
it is a grind.
Nothing unusual here. Going back to Patrick. Actually, I'm going to take a side turn here. Going back to Patrick Paul, answering a comment from the show yesterday, because I mentioned you just don't see 6'8" guards in the NFL. Yes, Baltimore Ravens guard Daniel Falele is 6'8". Is he a great guard? How long before he gets moved back to tackle? There are always outliers, but generally speaking, there's a reason you don't see 6'8" guards, and it deals with leverage. Okay.
Yes.
Tyreek and his role in getting Wes Welker fired, whether you want to take it as verbally Tyreek said something, or the fact that Tyreek had lack of attention to details issues, however you want to interpret that, led to the firing of Wes Welker. Mike McDaniel was asked point blank, and basically his answer was, yeah, I can see where you could come to that conclusion, but no. And then but then he said, what happens if you set out I'm paraphrasing, if you set out a list of responsibilities and they're not met, then I'm as a head coach, it's my job to get it right. So he basically kind of suggested, not surprisingly, that it was a Tyreek issue that got Wes Welker fired.
I could believe that, and here's why. These guys consistently this year could not get off the line of scrimmage. They couldn't beat the two deep coverage. Jalen Waddle, I believe, had 8 drops, which was like 7th in the league last year. Tyreek has 12.
But is that on Welker though?
No. But again, this is with Mike McDaniel saying, I give a list, and you're not checking everything off that list, right? If these guys can't get off the line, if they can't get open deep, if they're dropping passes, you're not firing those guys. You just gave them contract extensions. And OBJ, you've never been able to develop a number 3 receiver, whether it's Wes Welker's fault or not. Eric Ezukama has never developed. Braxton Berrios, he is what he is. I don't think anybody's going to say he.
What is he?
He's a special teams guy who can play the slot. OBJ never developed. That's not Wes Welker's fault, but it's his responsibility. They've never developed a number 3 receiver. Again, Wes hasn't had much to work with, has he? Not his fault, but his responsibility. And so you make a change because you probably think we can't keep going on like this. We're not making any progress. Wes might not be doing anything wrong, but perhaps these guys just need a different voice. And look, the same thing could be being whispered about Mike McDaniel and Steve Ross's upper echelon, right? That, the dude has done a decent job, but he's not checking off all the boxes. So I do believe Mike McDaniel from that standpoint.
And to me, I don't think it's purely an issue of the lack of production from the wide receivers, because again, Hill and Waddle were insanely productive in Welker's first 2 years as wide receivers coach. They had one bad bad year or mediocre year, partly because the starting quarterback was out for 6 games. There were other issues as well. And as you mentioned, it was given a whole lot of talent. And I could make the counter argument in case they didn't develop anybody. I would say Malik Washington became a pretty solid contributor late in the season as a rookie 6th-round pick. So I kind of get the feeling there's more than purely lack of production. I think it may have been issues without necessarily it being Tyreek induced, but that maybe the whole group, the wide receiver room as a whole, just wasn't into the details enough, and McDaniel decided that was on Welker. Because again, we could go back to the special teams position where year after year we're wondering why is Danny Crossman coming back. Mm-hmm. And he did come back, and eventually this offseason the move was made to Craig Ackerman. So
hey, let me say one thing real quick. When you talk about guards and their height, I always meant to ask Calais Campbell about that, how he gets leverage as a 6'8" defensive lineman. There was they had an offensive lineman in camp. Was it Roger something? The free agent. But anyway, he was like 6'4", and he was a guard tackle. And I asked him on a Zoom call because I planned on doing something on tall guards because of Liam Eichenberg and Rob Hunt being, 6'5" and 6'4". And he told me that he thinks nowadays the pass blocking skills translate from tackle to guard. And so you do see more taller guards, nobody 6'8", but you do see taller guards 6'4", 6'5" on a more regular basis. Still not common, but he was saying that was why he thought that, you see that more often. And taking it a step further, like we had said, it would be more convenient if you could have switched Austin Jackson or Terron or Patrick Paul to guard, but a 6'8" guard at Patrick Paul, that pushes the limit too much. But Liam Eichenberg was, 6'4", 6'5", and Rob Hunt was 6'4", 6'5". Isaiah Wynn is probably, 6'3", 6'4". Yeah. So, but 6'8", so your 6'8" is too big, but they are getting taller.
Yeah, and the same with defensive linemen. Generally, you for example, you rarely see, and again, I'm waiting here for the YouTube comment to point out one guy, rarely see nose tackles that are very, very tall, which is why, and I asked that of Austin Clark. I think it was one time when they had Raekwon Davis playing the position.
Yep.
And leverage is an issue.
Yep. Daryl Gardner used to have back problems, and that was a reason. Daryl Gardner, the old Dolphins defensive tackle, played with Tim Bowens and protected, Zach Thomas, but he was 6'6", and he had back problems from bending down like that, from the leverage.
Maybe he was protecting Zach Taylor too. Trying to think very quickly here. I was focused on the Dolphins today. Most of the GMs and the and head coaches around the NFL spoke today. I'm trying to think. Nick Sirianni of the Eagles taking exception to the tush push, and for me, it's not my objection to that play. Isn't that it's dangerous? Isn't that it unfairly favors the Eagles? To me, it's boring football, number one, from a fan standpoint. And number two, and to me, I thought the rules suggest, and we discussed it yesterday, so I don't want to rehash it, but suggested the rules is the ball carrier carries the ball, not getting pushed. I'm trying to think.
Were you surprised about the Kirk Cousins thing where he says he was injured? Yeah, and he appears on an injury report, and they say it was a clerical. And now all of a sudden, Raheem Morris, and they're saying this is the first we've heard of it. It's not a major disconnect. It's just kind of strange. And Kirk Cousins ends up getting benched at the end of the year. It's just kind of a strange and bad communication. At the very least.
It's weird. And then also Raheem Morris, or it was the GM Terry Fontenot saying that Kirk Cousins, we're going to pay him the bonus he's due, I think, on the 4th day of the league year. He's going to be on the team, and he's going to be the backup to Michael Penix.
Yeah.
And I can dunk a basketball over a car.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, Atlanta. That was just kind of a straight. I was just looking at that stuff, and it just looks like it's just been a kind of a bizarre combine for them. I'll have to get on the horn of my boy D Orlando Ledbetter of the Atlanta Journal Constitution. That is a what a bizarre. And this is from beat writers who cover Tyreek. That's a the Kirk
If we
Cousins
say it's
thing.
bizarre, it's bizarre.
That's right. That's right.
No, and here's the thing is, yeah, on the one hand, the Falcons are screwed cap wise with Cousins regardless.
Yeah.
Nobody's trading for that contract, so they're going to basically, if they release him, they're going to have to eat a chunk load of cap space like the Broncos did with Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
The thing is, you have a guy who's been a starter his entire career, who you gave a huge contract to. Having him on the roster as a backup makes for a very uncomfortable situation. And I know there are some Dolphin fans. There's a little bit of a correlation here because some Dolphin fans want to see a big name come in as a backup to Tua, and there are other Dolphin fans who don't necessarily want to have a shadow hovering over your starting quarterback. And then you have the possibility of having a quarterback who's going to be, I don't want to say malcontent's too strong a word, but who could, bring
go the other way.
Sorry?
He could go the other way.
Yeah, it could bring a negative energy to the room. Is that something you want? So, and Kirk Cousins, I threw it out. If the Falcons do wind up releasing him, Kirk Cousins can sign with any other team for a veteran minimum, which is a great solution for them. And would it be so egregious for the Dolphins to consider bringing him in as a backup to Tua?
I would consider it 100%. Again, you're trying to win. You're trying to win. Yes, I would consider it. Would I do it? I don't know. But 100%, I would pick up the phone and call Kirk Cousins and let's talk further. 100%.
Let's talk. Okay. And for those who would question why why wouldn't it be an issue him being a backup in Atlanta, but it wouldn't be in Miami because he didn't join the Dolphins as a starter, signing a huge free agent contract.
Right.
So it's a situation going downward in Atlanta that would make him less than happy. And we're going to close out with this, we mentioned the quarterback. Isaiah of the Miami Herald, Isaiah Smalls of the Miami Herald came up with a very good question to McDaniel. His preference was it to have a veteran backup or a rookie quarterback, and McDaniel's answer was basically, can he throw? So basically saying no major preference. To me, I'd rather have somebody who's been in there, who's done it, as opposed to a draft pick, whether it be a first, second, third round pick, who you don't know.
I agree. I agree with you. There's the movement of the second time around guys, the Sam Darnolds. I hate to throw out a name like Josh Rosen, but there's a thought that maybe the Dolphins could go that route. Nah. You need somebody who has showed already that he can win in this league, not somebody who you're hoping this will be the time that he shows it. That ship has sailed. You're past that. You went through that with Skylar Thompson. Now you need somebody who, when he comes in the huddle, guys aren't looking around going, did he get the play right? It's let's go. This dude has done it. Let's go win. That's what you need.
I agree. That's going to wrap it up. We're going to be back tomorrow, maybe with Perk, maybe with somebody else. That's called a tease right there. Stay tuned and find out. We'll have more stuff.
That's a threat.
With more stuff from the Combine, where the weather, by the way, here in Indianapolis has been absolutely nothing short of spectacular.
Wow.
Absolutely wonderful weather. And then tomorrow, the prospects begin their media interviews. The on-field workouts begin on Thursday. We'll be here all week, as I mentioned. Please like, subscribe. Please check out the website, MiamiDolphinsOnSide.com. Check out my friend Perk's great work at sunsentinel.com. He's on X at Chris Perk. And that's going to wrap it up. Perk, thanks as always. Everyone have a great rest of your Tuesday.